Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Starting Six. This is season 2, episode 2, and we are back after an absolute whirlwind week. Like, this was one of the craziest weeks of college volleyball that maybe ever has been.
Yeah, I don't know how many times we texted each other back and forth saying no one is safe. Even though it's week 2, no one is safe, you guys.
No, it's been really cool to see this kind of shift, right? Like, I feel like we've gone into every season and we went into this season here's the powerhouses, here's our final 4. Like, we've always kind of felt pretty confident in that, with a few teams here and there that might change. But this year, I genuinely don't know who's good and who's not. I can't tell.
No, I can't either, because the people we thought were good are playing horribly. Wisconsin's one of them. No offense, Wisconsin, meh. Texas, I don't know what's going on over there. Nebraska, even, you're a little rocky too. Louisville, who we've always had in the top, no matter what has happened, is not necessarily at the top anymore, and it makes for great volleyball, which I love. So I don't really care right now. It's also we have a lot of season, but it isn't making sense in my head, and my brain needs it to make sense. So it's stressing me out a little bit, but it's fun.
Yeah, no, I agree. It has been fun, but it is kind of that thing of you can't quite figure out what games to tune into and what games you could maybe skip, because the ones that you're it's probably going to be a sweep, or it's not going to be that exciting, are the ones that are then you reload your Twitter and it's upset. The NCAA, whoever's running their social team is probably using that upset graphic way more than they ever thought they were going to. It's the craziest thing I've ever, it's wild. Every time I refresh Twitter or Instagram, it's upset. And I'm I feel like I'm getting whiplash.
Yeah, I know. I went to look at the NCAA Instagram page just to look at numbers and stuff, and I was wait, what am I looking for? They're all upsets. If you just look at their grid, it's upset. I'm oh my God. And I was trying to tell Jack, I was no, you don't understand. This is crazy, and I can't explain it. This probably has never really happened before. So many upsets right off the gate.
Yeah, and we will get to it after we do our 6-game recap here, but we will talk about the rankings. The AVCA rankings came out today, this afternoon. I think it's 1 or 2 p.m. Central Time they come out. And there's so much movement. I don't think last year we ever saw the top 25 shift in this way. And I'm not just talking about our favorite teams. People were jumping up 4 or 5 spots. People were falling 7 or 8 spots. People stayed stagnant. It's crazy. The new 25 that came out today, the movement is going to be almost impossible to cover it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
definitely.
Well, without further ado then, let's get into our 6-game recap.
Yes.
I didn't put these in any specific order. Actually, I put them in the order that Liv and I texted when we chose these games. So date-wise, they might be out of order, but this is the order on the Word document, so that's what we're going to go with.
Perfect. That's how I have
it. Okay, perfect. Okay, sweet. So let's kick it off. The first match we're going to cover is number 6 Wisconsin versus number 23 Baylor. This took place at a tournament, I guess you could say, in Waco, Texas. And Baylor hosted Wisconsin and Minnesota. And let's see. So I actually watched this game. This was one of the crazier games I've watched this year. And Wisconsin won in a 5-set nail biter. Nail biter being not enough. That doesn't cover it, actually. Yeah. What happened. Basically, Wisconsin took sets 1 and 2 pretty easily. It was good volleyball, but it was yep, Wisconsin's gonna win this one. And then they dropped 3 and 4, fumbled it bad. And then in set 5, they were down quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I think Baylor had 2 or 3 match points.
Yeah.
And then Wisconsin ended up catching up and tying it at 14. And then Wisconsin ended up pulling out the win after a few back and forths. And the game-winning point was a really great rally too, which you love to see. But as a Wisconsin fan, I was scared I was gonna have to give my mom like CPR or something because she was like not okay. But yeah, overall it was a great game. So Liv, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I think you watched this one too, right?
Yeah, I did watch this one, and I told Jack, I was like, Wisconsin gave me a heart attack tonight. He's like, I think they're gonna do that all season. I was like, don't say that, but probably. I and we kind of touched on it last week. Kelly Sheffield is infamous for doing wacky lineups, and we kind of have like a little trauma behind that from our own experience. So I think it like really hits differently when it's one of your favorite teams and you can see it happening. You're like, why? So again, he changed his lineup. He uses one libero. He has Julia Orzel back on the outside playing 6 rotations. He has Devin Robinson back on the right side. Anna Smrek's not playing. So a little bit different, still running a 5-1, but I liked it a lot better. I thought it was, the lineup itself was more consistent in like terms of not as many people switching in and out, which we talked about. The double liberos just made it feel so chaotic. The one thing that I thought was super interesting about his lineup choice was that when Gigi was in, she was playing left back, not as libero. They had Lola
Shoemaker, I think. Schumacher.
She's a freshman, right?
Yes.
Yeah, then she was playing right back, which at first I was like, why? Like, why give her the libero jersey if you're not going to put her in left back or middle back? But I kind of liked it because I thought she did a phenomenal job, actually. Like, I thought she, especially in the 5th match, I thought her defense was really good. And I think you need a good defender in the right back, especially because Charlie's not the greatest defender when she's back there. So it kind of like, you give and take a little bit. But besides the lineup, like, holy moly, Wisconsin, my mom would punch you all in the face right now with how many missed serves you guys have. Like, that is her biggest pet peeve. And I can't stand it either now. Like, obviously I couldn't stand it playing, but watching you guys, I'm like, you're a D1 freaking team. Like, get your serves in. I get they're aggressive, but some of them don't look very aggressive. Like, just get them in, please.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I had to say about Wisconsin.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I actually, in my notes, one of my bullet points is, let's talk about the missed serves epidemic that's happening. And to be fair, it's not just happening with Wisconsin. It is really bad. And we're paying like a close attention to it because that's our team. But it's like across the, country. It's like across the country. Teams are just missing serve. I mean, I don't think there's a team I've watched that hasn't had a crazy amount of missed serves. Like, it's something's like in the wall. I don't know if they made the court shorter or if these girls need to like chill on the shoulder workout, like they're too strong. I'm not sure. But it has been a problem, and I've noticed it in a lot of teams, but it has been frustrating because it feels like it's something that Wisconsin has been doing every single game we've watched versus like other teams. It doesn't seem like it's as apparent, and it definitely is costing them sets.
Yeah, and I think Baylor did a good job capitalizing on that when Wisconsin would have a few missed serves or some, shanks or whatever on defense. Like, they really capitalized on Wisconsin's mistakes after sets 1 and 2. And Elise McGee, I mean, she played phenomenal. She had 15 kills, hitting a .250 hitting percentage, but she's also kind of their only person, I feel like, on Baylor. Like, overall, Baylor's a good team, but she's their main hitter. So I feel like that's a fault to Baylor, whereas Wisconsin, both Devin Robinson and Sarah Franklin had 19 kills. So, like, that's phenomenal for your outside and your right side. And with Baylor, you could kind of see it in their stats. And we've talked about it with Texas. Like, you can't always just go to Maddie Skinner. Like, you have to spread the wealth. And I thought that was one thing that kind of, I think Baylor could have done better, which would have set them up for more success against Wisconsin.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing that I did notice, I think that when I've watched Baylor in previous years, it feels that way, right? It's like Elise McGee and the rest of the team. Like, that's kind of how it feels. I did notice this year, it looked like Baylor was trying to find another avenue, which you kind of have to against a team like Wisconsin, right? Like, you had Charlie in the front row who maybe isn't as strong of a blocker, but when Kelly Sheffield puts his lineup so that Carter Booth and Devin Ryan are blocking your best and your most reliable hitter, you have to find another route. And I think that Baylor was scrambling to try to do so, and in some ways they were effective, but I agree with you, it's not in the way that Wisconsin is dominant across the net. Like Wisconsin's kind of like, I think they feed Sarah Franklin a little heavy these days, but I think that is a little bit to Charlie's age. However, it's the ball's coming into the setter's hands, and there's weapons on weapons on weapons, and now you have weapons in the back row too. Yeah. So that's something that is going to help Wisconsin get out of this rut, and I would like to see Baylor try to find that. And I think, like you mentioned, Texas has kind of found that a little bit as well too. They've started to spread the wealth a little bit too, but it is something that we've talked about on previous episodes and over our career. Is it's like you can't have a successful team on one girl out of 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. The last thing I do kind of want to mention just really quick about Wisconsin, or the last couple things. Julia is back at 6 rotations. I thought her back row was incredible. Her serve receive, especially in the 5th set, was so crucial. I thought she did great. I think she's still trying to get back into it in the front row a little bit, which I think is fine. But I'm excited to see her really be 100% healthy again, be 100% confident in the front row, and like see her progress as the year goes on. But I thought her back row was phenomenal. And then Liv mentioned Devin Robinson and Sarah Franklin. Both had 19 kills in this match and hit over 200, and they were named to the all-tournament team. So that's exciting. We need a little positive momentum moving forward. Wisconsin did come out of this tournament in Waco undefeated, so that's great. Wasn't easy, but they did it, and we'll take it.
Yes.
Okay. Next up, speaking of, I have TCU versus number 18 Minnesota. This was the other kind of, they were all really thrilling games, don't get me wrong. Actually, every single one of them was. But this one was big because all eyes have been on Minnesota after defeating Texas. And it's actually kind of crazy because Minnesota has one win, and that is their win. Yeah. And so it's kind of crazy. But when you watch the Minnesota team, you wouldn't know they have that one win if you didn't see that, number there. So I thought Minnesota looks great. I do want to just touch on a couple things about them. Their outsides are crazy. We knew McKenna Wooker had it in her, but this Julia Hansen that's come in and taken, the infamous spot of Taylor Landfair she's insane to watch. Like, she's crazy powerhouse.
Yeah, she has a lot of energy, which I think is very much needed in that spot, especially because I don't think Taylor Landfair necessarily has that like spark energy all the time. And so I think that's really crucial for Minnesota to have someone like that.
Yeah, she's so much fun to watch. I have a feeling that when she's playing on their home court, I think she's just going to feed off of that energy, and she's going to be pretty close to unstoppable. And she's also playing 6 rotations, which I think is really impressive as well. And kind of on that same note, something about this year's Minnesota team feels different. Like it feels like there was some kind of culture shift. I don't know if that's the amount of new girls that are on the court. I don't know if that's leadership. I don't know if that's because it's the second year under this coach. I'm not quite sure what the shift was, but when you're watching them, you can like almost feel the difference between this year and last year.
Yeah, I think it was really evident, not only in like this the Texas game, but all the games that they played, even though Texas was their only win, like you said, it is so different than last year. Like, it kind of looks like they're actually having fun this year. Like last year, I felt like it didn't really look like they were enjoying any of it for whatever reason, like you mentioned. So it's nice to see Minnesota kind of back in their groove of things like they have been in the past. You're frozen on my screen, Haley. Oh, there you are.
Oh, sorry, I lost you. Okay. Okay, we're back. Yes, from what I heard, I agree. It is nice. I think you're right. They look like they're having fun. And I'm not going to say, what it was because I don't know. I'm not part of it, but it definitely does feel and look different. On the other note, I was really impressed with TCU. I also watched them play Wisconsin. They're a really strong defensive team. And I think that if they can kind of figure out just a little bit more of a way to produce offensively, I think that this team could be a real threat. And not to jump ahead, but they did break into the top 25.
Yeah. But on that note, with offensive threats, Melanie Parra had 30 kills in that match.
Against Minnesota?
Yeah. And then Jalen Gibson, and I didn't catch, I'm assuming she was their other outside, had 21 kills. So Melanie Parra had 30 kills on 92 attempts. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I need to write that down. Like almost 100 attempts in a 5-set. Okay, whatever. But like, oh my God. Like I played a grass tournament yesterday and my shoulder feels like it's going to fall off today. And like, I can't imagine that. And she was hitting over a 200. And then Jalen Gibson had 21 kills hitting over 200. So I'm like, I agree.
Whoa.
But against Minnesota, they had very good offensive threats, at least producing from the outsides. So again, spreading it maybe needs to happen a little bit more to give, Melanie a break on her shoulder. But they had a standout game, those two.
Yeah, because that's something I noticed when they played Wisconsin specifically was, and you are facing a bigger block. That's what Wisconsin's kind of known for. But I did think that maybe you're right. I think it's more of the spreading the wealth that I think will help kind of produce a little bit more offensively. But I thought defensively they looked great, and that's insane. I didn't know she had that many kills. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that kind of wraps that matchup. So now we're probably going to move to the one that surprised the most people, and that was number 2 Nebraska versus SMU in Dallas, Texas. So I'd like to say the first 2 took place in Waco, Texas. This one took place in Dallas, Texas, and it kind of sucked because Liv and I wrapped up recording on Tuesday because of Labor Day on Monday, and turned on the game and saw Nebraska get swept, and we had to wait pretty much a week to talk about it. But yeah, that was the shock of the week, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't even know because like, also, I mean, the first set was 25-23, but like, it's not like they were that close. The next one was 25-21, then 25-18. Like Nebraska, come on. This was also, which I think should be noted, Nebraska's first unranked loss since 2017. And it was a sweep. So I kind of like hits hard, I feel like, just like hearing that statement. Obviously, you don't really want to pay too much attention to the stats and things, let that affect you, but they definitely turned it around quickly when they played again the next match. But Nebraska got killed on serve receive. Usually they're known pretty well for, having good serve receive. Lexi Rodriguez is back there. They have some really good defensive specialists, but SMU killed them on ace. They had 7 aces to Nebraska's 1, and Nebraska had 11 serving errors in a 3-set sweep. Like, there you go. So that's 18 points right there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they were just having a bad game or what happened. I also noticed that he switched up the lineup quite a bit because all Landfair, Murray, and Krause all had stats on the outside. So I didn't, obviously we didn't get to see the whole thing because we were recording. So I didn't know who was necessarily playing the whole time, but it looks like he was trying to switch it up. What was it? I think Harper Murray only had, who was it? I think it was this game.
Harper had 6 kills.
Yeah, and Landfair was hitting a 0% on like 2 kills or something like that, and Krause was hitting a .250, and Merritt Beeson had 9 kills, but she was hitting a 100. So like not a lot of production out of any of their hitters. And again, I think that stems from the serve receive. I don't know what was going on with the defense. back there, back row specialist. Don't know what was happening, but I think it kind of stemmed from them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of surprising too, because when my mom and I watched Nebraska play Montana State or whoever it was a couple days after this or over the weekend, and Taylor Landfair played pretty much the majority of the game of the parts that I watched over Lindsay Krause. But I also noticed that Merritt Beeson was not playing in the back row. Oh. I don't know if that is due to serve receive. I don't know if it's because they deemed they were playing a lesser team, which like we probably shouldn't have that mentality anymore. But like I don't know exactly what the cause was, but she wasn't playing 6 rotations and they had a DS in for her as well. So there was a point on the court where there was 3 DSs, like including Lexi as libero. Yeah. And I think that's a little crazy. And Nebraska doesn't typically do that. They like to have a threat out of the back row. So I do think it was a little bit of a scramble. They didn't play Nebraska volleyball at all. However, that's also a testament to SMU. They kept Nebraska hit a .07 in set 3. Yeah. Like, and that's SMU's defense. That's SMU's block. And the more that, I think what some people forget about volleyball sometimes, especially when you're talking about a team like Nebraska, right? It's easy to be like, oh, this isn't Nebraska volleyball. They just had a bad game. Well, the only way really as like a hitter that all 3 of you kind of across the net really kind of get into your head is when you're being blocked, when the block is so hard that you're hitting out of bounds, when you're being dug. Those things add up and then you cannot perform. And for Nebraska, I think that was what we saw when they played in the national championship. Yeah. Was that you're playing a huge team like Texas with a massive front row with tons of offensive threats and a huge block. Plus, they had some of the best back row we've ever seen between Maddie Skinner and the libero last year.
Yeah. And I don't remember her name.
Skipping names. But anyways, Texas's backcourt was crazy. And I think for hitters like Harper Murray, for hitters like Andy Jackson, I think that when you're so used to getting these big booming kills, it's hard in your head to like readjust. Like, okay, this isn't working. And they started to scramble. And I think that that's when Nebraska crumbles from the inside. Like that's like, it's like an inside mission for these teams. Like, how do you get them to break themselves apart? Like that's what teams have to do to beat Nebraska.
Yeah, you have to let them make their own mistakes. And I mean, coaches have said that throughout the year so many times to me and my teams when playing. And that is exactly what you have to do. You don't have to do anything fancy. You just have to make them think and then make them make their mistakes. And then you win. And then they continue and continue. And it goes and it's a spiral. And unfortunately, that happens with this Nebraska team. And I think because they're still so young and almost all of their players on the court are, at least last year, were new to Nebraska volleyball. It happens more often and at times when you don't expect it to necessarily. We weren't expecting SMU to sweep Nebraska. No one was expecting that. Nebraska wasn't expecting that. And so when they're like, oh, shoot, they're actually good and they can dig us and they can block us and none of our tricks and shots are working, this is Nebraska volleyball, like it's not working. What do we do? Like it's almost like an identity, like they lose their identity when what always works doesn't work. And I think because of that youth, they don't know how to like kind of react on their feet and like really change it up and still have that confidence in themselves. So
yeah, I agree. It's something Nebraska's gonna have to work on. And they did, like we said, they bounced back. They swept, I believe it was Montana State. They swept them. They looked a little bit more like Nebraska, but I just think that there's something a little bit different about this Nebraska team this year compared to last year. And I don't know exactly what it is, but they feel a little shakier to me. And so I'm interested to see how they kind of pivot from that and tackle conference, because I think that the Big Ten play this year is going to be the hardest it's ever been.
Yes. Oh, 100% agree.
Okay. Continuing on the train of insanity in Texas, Miami takes down number 1 Texas in Austin. So this was a home game for Texas, and they lost to Miami in 5. So Miami joins Minnesota as the 2 teams to defeat number 1 and national reigning champs. This was crazy. This was crazy to see. Now, we talked about Miami last year, and
Yeah.
we said, like, they are one of those teams that just kind of sits right in between that 25 and 30. So they don't, or like 26 and 30. So they don't quite make that top list, but they sit there and they just wait and wait and wait. And then they pull out wins like this occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Miami completed a reverse sweep, which we love.
I love it.
Sweeps. And I do want to point out that Miami hit a .346 in set 2 and a .429 in set 3.
Yeah.
Those are crazy numbers to put up against Texas.
Yeah. And Texas, then they were hitting in the fourth set, .026, .048. Like, you can't do that against any team. You can't be hitting below 100
and
against any team and expect to win.
In set 3 and set 4, as a team, they were hitting under a .1. But the worst part is that in set 3, they were hitting under a .03.
Yeah. Horrible.
That's crazy for Texas. Like, that's like unheard of in Texas's program.
Mm-hmm.
Maddie Skinner, she still put up 20 kills. Singletary put up 12 and Waynes put up 10.
Mm-hmm.
But it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough.
Well, Madison Skinner put up 20 kills, hitting a .103. But then sophomore outside hitter Grace Lopez on Miami also had 20 kills, but she was hitting a .395. So, like, the difference between what those kills actually meant, Madison Skinner had way more errors than Miami, and I think that's just what it came down to. Like, Texas had too many errors, and again, this is Texas's first unranked loss since 2014. So it's been 10 years.
And on that note, that's crazy doing this at home. But I also will say that on that note, I read the recap article on the NCAA's website, and they stated, and I don't know if this was before or after the Miami loss, but they stated that over the past decade, Texas is 147-11.
Yeah, I read that too.
Over the past 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years. That's insanity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, regardless of what happened in this game, that is crazy to see written out like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're wild. But yes, down they go. And we're going to talk about their rankings when we get there. We have 2 more games to touch on. So that's everything in Texas. Texas, you took teams and you choked them out. I don't know what it was. What was in the air down there in Texas, but people were suffering. Also, speaking of that, when we were watching the Wisconsin Baylor game, did you see that crickets were falling from the ceiling?
No, ew.
Yeah, it was crickets, and like the one that I saw was like one fell next to like the photographer, and he was like stomping his foot like to kill the cricket, and they kept like showing it, like they were just falling out of the ceiling.
Oh, that's absolutely disgusting.
Like, no, Texas is like if you took Australia and shrunk it down and stuck it in the United States, like that's Texas.
Do you imagine like you're hitting the ball and like someone just smacks you in the face and it's a cricket?
Oh, gross. They were, and of course it's like they're like that big, like they were huge. Anyways, okay, Texas, thank you for a great week. We're moving on. Okay, let's jump to State College, shall we? Number 7 Penn State defeats number 4 Louisville in a sweep.
Yeah, and like a sweep.
Like, yes, like could have put in the B team sweep.
Oh. Ugh.
Okay, right off the bat, do you know what happened to Anna DeBeer? No,
because I put that down. I was like, 2 kills. Excuse me, negative .357 hitting percentage. What happened? Like, are you injured? Are you hurt? Like, what happened? Are you sick? Because there was times last year, I swear, that she had really, really hot matches and really, really cold matches where she was underperforming. And I know, obviously, she's had previous injuries and, you know, that can come up and flare up at times. But she is so good when she's on. But when she's off, for whatever reason, that may be injury, like kind of mentally, whatever it is, she's off. And it throws the whole team. And that she is Louisville's team, unfortunately. So, like, when she's not having a good game, no one's having a good game.
That is their problem, and it was their problem last year too, and probably the year before that and the year before that. So just the scores of this game were 25-15, 20-19, 25-13. That's not even a game. Like that is not how a number 7 and a number 4 game should look.
No, their hitters had 8 kills.
Yeah. Oh, Charity Looper had 8. The next hitter had 4.
Mm-hmm.
4. Meanwhile, flip side, Penn State hit a .583 in set 3.
That's crazy.
They were hitting almost 600 as a team in set 3.
Yeah. Crazy. And
it was insanity.
I'm super excited about this Penn State team, and I will probably bring them up at the end of the episode. I'm a fan of Penn State. I have been. What was it last year? They were my team to watch, and I will say that again. I think magic is happening in State College. Unfortunately, my cousin no longer works there and is a Badger coach, so I'm not upset about that. But that means I can't go to any more Penn State games. But I think there's some magic in the air over there in Pennsylvania. So I
agree. I think right before we started recording, I was taking a walk with my mom. We were just kind of talking volleyball a little bit. I was telling her about some of the things we were going to cover in this episode, and I told her, I was like, I think in an ideal world, I would love to see what is flying around me? There's a bug or something. Sorry. I would love to see Penn State as the Big Ten champions this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get there.
Yeah.
I want to see that. I want to see that Stanford Penn State magic. That's what I want.
That would be good.
Anyways, I also saw some videos from Rec Hall. And the atmosphere was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Last match of the year. Anything else on Penn State? I don't want to cut you off.
Nope. We're good.
Okay. Last match we're going to talk about today is another major upset, an in-state upset, if you will. The University of South Florida defeats number 10 University of Florida, and that's in Gainesville. So that was a Florida Gators home game. This was a 5-set thriller as well. And I also want to note that then USF turned around and defeated Big Ten's Ohio State.
Yeah.
Unranked, but defeated them.
Good for you.
Another 5th setter, I'm pretty sure, too. Florida had a really strong the Gators. I was going to call them Gators. Gators had a strong first 3 sets on paper. It was kind of hard to see where the errors took place. I didn't watch this match, so it was on paper when you're looking at the statistics, it was kind of hard to figure out what exactly happened. However, we have watched Florida in previous seasons. I haven't had the opportunity to watch them this year, but we have watched them in previous seasons, and this is something that Florida has always struggled with, is they're very up and down and up and down. And unfortunately, it's not up and down with matches, winning streak, losing streak. They go up and down in the matches themselves. And that's where Florida, like we talked about with Nebraska, they kind of are almost fighting with each other more so than fighting against an opponent, because something just is going wrong and they can't fix it fast enough.
Yeah. And we talked a lot about Florida last year with Alexis Stuckey getting hurt in the beginning of the year. And from what I heard and read, she is still out, but is hoping to be back playing in September. I don't know if that's early September, late September, or when. But also in the previous game against Colorado, Kennedy Martin left the game with an injury. So I think those two big components, primarily Kennedy Martin leaving because Alexis Stuckey has been out. Her leaving, I think, has a big impact on how the outcome of this game, because it was right after, emotions are still kind of high after a player gets injured during a match. And then you have people coming in trying to figure out the new lineup and still having a new setter, which I think it's a brand new setter because last year they had a transfer. So I don't know who their setter is right now. So it'll be interesting to see when Alexis Stuckey comes back, how it'll change. And I'm not sure the injury that Kennedy Martin is facing right now, so I don't know if she'll be back to playing or not. I hope so. But that can have, because she was a powerhouse right side hitter.
Oh, she's and she's huge. Like I mean, she's a big asset on there, and she's a opposite, which is really crazy to be. She's heavily relied on for an opposite. And it's understandable why when you watch her play. So really unfortunate. I hope she's okay. And I hope she's comes back. And I'm really bummed to hear about Stuckey still, because it was an ACL.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, I mean, coming from experience, I was out with my ACL injury, like out playing like cold for 6 months, and then rehab for 3 more months, like still kind of actively like starting to play. So, you know, about 9 months to a year when you like, I feel like that year is like when you're really like back to yourself. And so I know it was early in the season when she got injured, but I feel like that year is coming up if it hasn't already.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they're just kind of waiting for that time frame and then she's going to hit the ball running, or if she has had any setbacks. I'm not sure. I hope not. But I also know that there's so many mind blocks, especially with like the knees and the jumping and all that stuff. So I hope she's back soon. And I wish her both of them all the best with injuries. They're never fun.
No, not at all. So good for you, USF. Florida, sending you well wishes, because that's not great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's get into the AVCA rankings then this week.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said at the beginning of this episode, there was so much movement. I actually was like, this was like the most year I've ever been to look at a top 25. I was so excited. I was like refreshing my Instagram around that like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock mark. Because I just was like so intrigued, like I knew Texas wasn't gonna be number 1 anymore. I wanted to know where Minnesota went. Like I was really excited. And so these are crazy. So I'm just gonna go through the top 10 really quick, but to see the full list, you can just go to the NCAA volleyball social media and you'll see the whole list there. But so the new number 1 is Pittsburgh. This isn't surprising at all. And I think they've had an incredible year so far, and they're a scary team.
Yeah.
Remaining at number 2 is Stanford. Again, I think being led by Cami Minor, this team's going to be very successful all year long. I don't keep up with them too much when they're playing conference, but I am excited to see how they, end up in the postseason. Because this is going to be the year for them if they're going to do it. Because I think Cami is a 5th year.
Yeah.
Number 3, Penn State. This is crazy. Like, that's a huge jump. I think they went up 4.
Yeah, I wrote it down. Yeah, they were 7 and they went up to 3.
That's a huge jump. Super excited about that. Less excited, number 4 remains Louisville. I'll get into this in a little bit, so I won't start on it now. Number 5, Nebraska. So Nebraska dropped 2 spots?
From 2 to 5.
Oh, Nebraska was number 2, so Stanford moved up.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 to 5. Number 6, Texas. Wow.
Yeah.
5 spots is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Number 7, Purdue.
They moved up 1. I think they were number 8.
Yeah, I think you're correct. I'm excited to watch them. I haven't actually watched them this year, but I think I heard that and have seen that Raven Colvin is having an absolute year.
Of course.
Number 8, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, could be worse.
Yeah, I was surprised it wasn't worse.
Yeah. Number 9, Creighton. They're going to be a big team to watch as well. And number 10 is Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple things that the NCAA noted. Miami new to the poll in at number 20.
Yep.
Also new to the poll, TCU at 25.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor jumped 5 spots. Georgia Tech jumped 4 spots. Stanford jumped 3 spots.
Oh.
Whoa. Okay, they were lower than I thought. And Penn State jumped 4 spots.
Yeah. that's like big movement too. You know,
Crazy.
usually we see 1 to 2 spots, but like 4s and 5s or not even being ranked than you're number 20. Like you don't just slide in at number 25. You're already up at 20. Like what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah, and Minnesota dropped one, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
They went
Yeah,
from 18
okay.
to 19.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into our new segment, which is our player of the week. I'm excited about this.
Okay. You go first.
Okay. So a little contradictory to what you said earlier, but I didn't want to say anything because I wanted to save it for this. But my player of the week is actually Grace Carroll of the Baylor Bears. I wanted to highlight her because her playing against Wisconsin, she came in and was crucial, she was clutch in crucial moments. Like she did her job when she had to. She kind of became quite reliable, especially in sets 4 and 5. She was like a pretty big presence. She's a 6'5" freshman right side. She had 10 kills against Wisconsin, which is a lot. And this was only her second appearance this season. She was in against a team I didn't even recognize the name of. So this was a pretty big stage for her to walk in. It looked like their gym was like packed. Like obviously this is a huge game, right? And she played, I think it was 3, 4, and 5, if I'm remembering correctly. And especially in that 4th and 5th set, I just thought she did a really, really great job. She had a lot of energy. And I just was a really big fan of watching her. Like I thought that it was really great. I had no idea that she didn't play regularly. So I wanted to shout her out. I thought she was fun to watch and she was making me sweat. So
Awesome. Okay. My player of the week is freshman setter from Penn State, Izzy Stark. She just got freshman of the week for the second week in a row. She's running a 5-1 for Penn State. She led them beating Louisville and Kentucky and Ball State over the weekend. She was averaging 11.09 assists per set, and the team hit a total of .321 hitting percentage. She also had 47 assists, 17 digs, 5 blocks, 5 kills, and 1 ace in the reverse sweep at Kentucky. So pretty standout for a freshman, and to be leading Penn State, who's now number 3, against some good teams. You know, Louisville's typically good. Kentucky is typically good. Who else did they play? Tennessee, typically good. And they've beaten all of those teams with her leading. Like, that's really impressive to be a freshman,
I agree.
And, you know, she had some big shoes to fill, and she has some big hitters to set to. So the fact that they can produce off her sets, and not only is she doing things offensively, but defensively as well, I think that's kind of what's really a spark for Penn State this year.
Yeah, love it. All right, we're going to go into bench and start. Yeah. What do you want to start with tonight, Liv? You can pick.
We can just go into, let's end on a happy note.
Okay. All right, we're going to bench.
Okay.
Okay, I'll kick it off. Okay. I kind of foreshadowed it a little bit earlier, but my bench is Louisville staying at number 4. Now, between this episode and last episode, you might think I'm a hater. I'm not, all the way. However, I have a bone to pick sometimes with the people who are voting for this poll, because it doesn't make sense. And I have points to make to back it up. So, Louisville beats Wisconsin in 4 on August 27th. So, you know, the Labor Day ranking, got it. Makes sense. Then, also before the Labor Day ranking came out, they swept Tennessee, who was number 17 at the time. Okay, well, a number, 4 team should be sweeping a number 17 team.
Yeah.
Or at least, 4, whatever. Okay. Then they got swept by Penn State, who was number 7 at the time. And the only teams they've beaten since are 3 unranked teams, and these unranked teams have no victories over ranked teams. So because they didn't lose to an unranked team, they get to just stay. after being swept by Penn State.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
I just think with all the movement that happened in the top 5, I think there are other teams that probably could have been in that spot. And I'm not saying that Louisville should have been number 8 by any, like, I'm not saying that. I'm just thinking that them not moving even like a teeny tiny little bit for that loss against Penn State. I don't know if like they, the voting was like, oh, well, Penn State's at number 3, so they're over Louisville. So like, we'll just, I don't know what the logic is between that.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that this makes sense, really. And it would have been exciting to see a little bit more movement within at least like the top 5, to tell you the truth. So I'm just a little confused by them staying at number 4, and I'm a little frustrated because like I don't know. I don't really get it. And that was the theme last year too with them. It drove me crazy.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure we had these same conversations last year because the same thing was happening where with Louisville, it wasn't like it was a different team that wasn't moving when we thought that they should have. It was Louisville again. And the only thing that I totally agree with you, and I mean, our group chat was like, doesn't seem right.
Mm-hmm.
The 2024 NCAA National Championship for volleyball is in Louisville this year. All I'm saying.
Do you think that this is how boys feel when they think that the NFL is like scripted?
Yeah, it must.
Is this how it feels? Is volleyball important enough to be scripted? That's how it feels. Anyway, like I said, I enjoy watching Louisville play. I just and I think they're going to be successful. This to me does not make total sense because their 2 big victories came pre-Labor Day and the sweep came post-Labor Day. So that's where I'm a little bit confused. But that's just me. That's my bench. It annoyed me. I'm letting it go now. All right.
Until next week when the rankings come out again.
Until they're still number 4.
Yeah.
No, next week they'll be number 3.
Yeah, probably. We need to learn more about how the rankings actually, because I know there's votes and stuff, but like, who are these people that are voting? Like, can I be someone that votes?
We should ask Taylor because she seems to have a really good grip on this for some reason. I don't know how she knows how this works really well, but we should ask her and figure it out.
I know.
I should actually know more before I come on here, and I'm like, it doesn't make any sense because like in my head it doesn't, and that's what I'm going on. But there's probably numbers to back it up, but to me it doesn't make sense.
Nah, who knows?
Anyways, okay, you go.
Okay, my bench, and this also could be a little controversy, and it's about the rules, some of the new rules that they have, and I guess it's kind of 2 of them. I think they're really the main 2 rules are the double libero and the no doubles.
Don't even get me started on the doubles. Don't get me started.
Like, first I'll touch on the double libero. Like, I can get it and I can understand it, but also like, your libero should be able to serve, receive, and play defense, and that's why they're your libero. They shouldn't just like specialize in one. Like get good enough to be able to do both. Like that's why you get the jersey. That's why you get to stand out. So like do better or don't be the libero. Like you don't get to pick which one. I don't know. I feel icky about it. I play libero. I've done the things like, and I don't know if that's why, but I'm just like, no, just either like suck it up and get better, or like then give that person the libero jersey. Like, you don't get to pick and choose in the match. Like, I don't know. Something about it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I think when I've seen it prior to the season of volleyball, like I've seen it in club it or like high schools and stuff, and I've never liked it. It's never made sense. It's always been so chaotic and like ruined the flow of things. So whatever. Don't like that. But the doubles, okay, I get making like a really athletic move and you get the ball up and it's a little spinny and you're like, oh, come on, like I did that, like a standout move. But when you're standing on your 2 feet and you set a double and they are not calling it, what is the point? Like, are we
Your
playing in my
setters can
backyard?
double, Liv. Your setters can double.
Yeah, I know. Like, what's the point of being a setter? Again, why are we having liberos now if we can have 3, 4 of them? I know you can't. Like, you can have 2 of them. What's the point of being a setter? I could be a setter then if I can just throw out doubles all the time. What's
Literally,
the point?
and the worst part is like, so when we were watching Texas and Wisconsin play, I counted Texas had 8 uncalled doubles because of this new rule.
Yeah.
Do you know how crucial 8 points is in a match?
Like, again, I understand if it's a really athletic move and you're like diving and you throw your hands up and you get it up and then they call it. Like, I get that. Like, let them keep playing. But when you're standing there, you jump set, like, you don't make that much movement to get to the ball and you're still doubling it. Like, come on. Like, that is your specialty.
Your middle takes it or your right side takes it. And they're like, oh, well, they're not a setter. So, like, we're letting the doubles go. It's like, did you not see that ball do 10 backflips before it got to the hitter?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? It's horrible.
Like, I feel like there needs to be more, like, be a little bit more subjective or, like, objective to how you call them. I don't know. Like, there should be, like, you had to run 10 paces to the ball and then throw it up. And I don't know. Sometimes it just, like, irks me. And it's probably because I've been used to it for my whole career of volleyball, like, knowing that you have to have clean hands when you're setting. And, like, that's what made the setters good, is, like, they could make those athletic moves, they could put it in the right placement, and it's a clean set. Like, that's skill. Yeah. Like, you have to learn that. But now it's just, like, throw it up and hope for the best, in a way. And, like, if you're teaching young girls that, because they're changing the rules in high school as well, God.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. Like, young little girls not learning how to set properly, like, that's going to be a disaster in 7 years when they get to college and they've never learned to actually set clean. I don't think coaches are, like, not teaching them how to set properly. Like, I don't think that. But, you know, if you can get away with it in matches, like, you're not learning.
Yep. I agree.
So does that mean, like, I can hit outside the antenna all day long on the outside and, like, it's not out of bounds? Like, it's the same kind of concept in my head. Like,
right.
So I can do a full fall on my serve on my serve? Why does it matter? Right?
Right. Yeah. What are rules?
Yeah. Just let him play.
Like basketball. So I can just carry it?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how
it's goofy. Yeah. I agree. I don't know. The double libero thing, like, I'm still indifferent on. I don't get it. Like, I don't get what the purpose is, but, like, whatever. This doubles with the sets it's like killing me. It's making it hard to watch games, and it's making it really hard to watch high school games because they double frequently, but when you're allowing it, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's bad. I'm with you. That's good. Yeah. That's a really good one.
Yeah. And, like, seeing it live or, like, on TV with, like, good D1 schools, I'm like, ugh, like, it's driving me crazy.
Okay, what's worse? The missing serves or the doubles? I think it's the doubles.
I think it's the serves.
No, the doubles, dude. It's bad. But the serves are bad, too. That's actually really hard.
The serves are all the time. Like, this doubles is new. Like, the serving is all the time. That's always been a thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do our starts. We'll end on a good note. So whoever you are that changes the rules, you're on the list.
Please do it.
Yeah.
Please change them back.
All right. Please change it back. Okay, I'm gonna do my start.
Go for it.
I don't know if we're gonna have the same start or not. I have a feeling we might, but we'll see.
Okay.
My start is Penn State.
Yeah.
Is that yours?
Yeah.
I knew it. Okay, great. So let's just, hype up Penn State a little more. I'll read my notes and then you can read yours and we'll just kind of, build off that or say anything else we want. I had the freshman setter as a point on mine as well. I think she's doing fantastic. As we mentioned, they are number 3 now, and that's the highest national ranking in the Coach Katie era. So that's great as well to see. I also saw that Jess Mirzik just hit 1,500 kills in her career, which is wild.
Crazy.
I also saw that their sweep versus Louisville marked their first sweep of a non-conference top 5 team since 2015 against Stanford. And just on a personal note, as somebody who's also in this career field, their graphics and social team is top tier this year.
Yeah, it's so good.
They are gorgeous. They look fantastic. Their graphics, like I'm like obsessed. Those are my points.
Okay. I had all those points. The only other thing that I think is been really key for Penn State, at least these last few games and the Louisville game, they have a transfer from Nebraska. She's a redshirt freshman, Carolyn J. I don't actually know how to say her last name, but that's how I'm going with. I don't really want to botch it. She did not play when she was at Nebraska. Primarily, she's a right side. Right? Yeah, she's an opposite. She didn't play at Nebraska. They had Mary Beeson, but she has come to Penn State and she has been a really good powerhouse for them, especially on the right side. I feel like they've have tossed and turned on that right side because they had Hannah, whatever. I can never remember her name. They're two first names. It's so confusing. She was bouncing from the right side and the outside. Now she's primarily outside, so they needed to fill that spot. And I think this Carolyn has done a great job. She had 11 kills against Louisville with hitting over 200 hitting percentage, and she's a redshirt freshman. So I think she's going to do really good things for them. So it's exciting to see Penn State have great veterans and then great new blood coming in that can learn from them. And I think the Katie Schumacher Cowley era is amazing. I mean, in 3 years she's done, this is her third season, so not even. I mean, she's done so much for the program. They used to be, the dynasty back in the day. They kind of fell off the wagon for a while, and now they're starting to build it up, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Penn State's going to be a really exciting team to watch. I think we said in the last episode too, like the Big Ten conference is just going to be, this is going to be some of the best. I think, like, we say this every year, but like, if you're not watching volleyball and you're like, oh, I've just never really gotten into it, or, oh, I'd like to get into it, but I don't know, like, this is the year to start. This is going to be some of the best volleyball. And I saw an interview with John Cook coming up. These next matches for Nebraska in particular, because they're a good team to start with. If you're just getting into the game, these next matches, like the next few weeks for them, are going to be insanity. I think it's Nebraska and Creighton have like the craziest schedules coming up. Like, this is going to be some of the best volleyball we get to watch. Like, this is the year to start getting in on it.
Yeah. Except don't get confused when girls are throwing Spin City balls up in the air.
And if there's two liberos, just know, like, there used to only be one.
Yeah. They're one and the same. They're like the same cell that just kind of parted different ways. And don't get confused when they're all starting to wear the long white socks again. Okay, it's just a phase.
Thought, like, this probably isn't the best year for you. the long white socks is getting confusing. First the leggings, then the long white socks, like then the tank top. Jesus, what's gonna be next?
Yeah.
What a week. Yeah,
that was a very exciting start.
Agreed. It makes what we do a little bit easier,
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. We will be back next week with hopefully another great week of volleyball and hopefully another great week for Wisconsin. So fingers crossed on that. But we'll be back to report. We'll have a new poll next week, and we'll talk to you guys then.